RH, quer saber como voar no trabalho? É só usar a Flash. Com a Flash, você concentra toda a gestão de pessoas em um único lugar. Faça a admissão dos colaboradores e solicite mais de 8 categorias de benefícios. Ah, e você ainda pode fazer todo o controle de ponto. Conheça o novo onboarding integrado da Flash em flashapp.com.br.
Aqui no Spotify, muitas playlists são criadas através de inteligência artificial. A IA está em todo lugar, mas nem todo IA é igual. Desbloqueie experiências de IA mais inteligentes, fáceis de expandir e personalizadas para sua vida e seus negócios com os computadores Lenovo e processadores Intel Core Ultra, que transformam a sua experiência tecnológica. Acesse lenovo.com/smarter. Lenovo, inteligência artificial mais inteligente para todos.
It's the Larry Kudlow Show. Free market prosperity starts here. Now, here's Larry Kudlow.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Larry Kudlow. Great pleasure to be with you, as always. By the way, you can live stream this radio show over the Internet. Live stream us over the Internet, LarryKudlowShow.com, LarryKudlowShow.com. And during the week, please join us, fabulous Fox Business Network. 4 to 5 p.m. every day, Monday through Friday. The name of the show is Kudlow. And if you can't make it at 4, you can text your favorite 9-year-old, and she will show you how to DVR the show. All right, we're going to bring on a great friend, Mr. Steve Bannon, who was the CEO of the 2016 Trump campaign. He's former White House chief strategist during the Trump administration. He's hosted the show War Room. He's going to be calling in just a moment or two. We're waiting for him. And I will simply say that I bled a little when the federal government incarcerated Steve Bannon for not turning over certain documents that were covered by executive privilege. He's a brave guy. He's really made of steel. He's sort of the heart and soul of the MAGA movement these many years, and he's a smart fella. He's been in business, and of course, he's a major force in conservative politics today. We'll wait a moment. He's switching over from his show to our show, and the Biden Justice Department went after him, incarcerated him. Bannon was very brave. He refused to give up documents. And it was really one of the many injustices and weaponizations and the use of lawfare. I mean, you listen to the Biden people and Kamala Harris people, they talk about Trump as the threat to democracy. They are the threat to democracy. They are the threat to democracy because of the kinds of things that they pulled in recent years. I mean, just think about that. Not only going after people like Bannon, but going after Trump. I mean, this is something, it's funny. It's not even an issue. I mean, Kamala Harris gives this speech, supposedly, her final message speech in Washington on the Ellipse a couple days ago. You talk about a threat to democracy. What did they do? They removed Joe Biden, just took him out, right? Obama, Chuck Schumer, perhaps Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi certainly, just took Biden out of the race and gave it to Kamala Harris. No primaries, no competition, no votes, no democracy. Go figure. Go figure. So the whole thing smacks of so much injustice. And whatever they say with this nonsense and name-calling, that Trump is a fascist and Hitlerite and so forth, it just doesn't make any sense at all. There's no common sense to it. And I think a lot of voters understand this. They see how that was done. I mean, it may be one of these sort of whisper, below-the-surface themes of exactly how Joe Biden was pulled out of the race and Kamala Harris was inserted. Where was the primary? Okay. Where was the difficult nominating? She's not tested. She wasn't ready for this. It shows on the campaign trail with all of her word salads. It shows that she doesn't understand policy, just talks in vague, vacuous generalities. But people know, they watched this. Now, that's not a democracy. Mr. Trump went through all of the primaries, and there were 6 or 7 or 8 candidates against him, and he won the states by large margins, fair and square. Goes back to 2016. Mr. Trump ran. I think he had 16 opponents, and he won and had to go through state-by-state primaries. And that's democracy, all right? What's not democracy is when you just take out one candidate and put in another. Where were the people? Where were the voters? Where were the primaries? That hasn't gotten near enough attention. And every time they talk about Trump as a threat to democracy, you say to yourself, well, what democracy did you abide by? I mean, there were rules, laws, and they were completely blown away. And the other thing I would mention, which is almost forgotten, is that the Biden-Harris Justice Department actually tried to keep Trump off the ballot in a number of states. People forget about that fiasco until the Supreme Court stepped in and says, don't you dare. Don't you dare. And then the obvious arguments about these crazy cases in New York and Washington and South Florida going after Trump, the FBI raiding Trump's home. I mean, this is, who is the threat to democracy? That's the question that has to be asked. All right, we're waiting to get hold of Mr. Bannon. You have him on the phone? Almost. We're going to get him in just a few moments. Anyway, I've known Steve Bannon many years, and I guess I met him back in 2015, and he was very kind to me in 2015, 2016, as I was helping out working on the tax policies for the Trump campaign, the first campaign. And I visited him several times when he was senior counselor, senior advisor, and strategy in the White House. All right, we have my friend Steve Bannon. First of all, Steve Bannon, welcome to the show, and it's a pleasure. Let me hear your voice, Steve Bannon. Let me hear your voice.
Larry Kudlow, how you doing, brother?
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. As I was just saying, I bled a little when the feds went after you and incarcerated you for a couple months, but you're okay, I take it. You're okay.
Oh, yeah. Nancy Pelosi thought she was going to our show's bigger than ever, and I feel empowered. You do 4 months in a federal prison as a 70-year-old guy. It's a very tough environment. So, no, but I feel very empowered. I was very fortunate.
Well, you're a man of steel, and you're a great friend, and you're heart and soul of the MAGA movement. So let's talk for a bit. It's really a great pleasure to have this interview. Steve, give us your overview. What's this race look like? We got 3 days till Tuesday. How do you see things?
Larry, you remember in 2016 because you've been with us from the beginning. Look, what we can't do is ease up. If you think about the positioning strategically of like armies, this is the fight we always wanted. Right now, given what's happening in the southern states, in North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, with this early voting, we have backed her into a corner in the blue wall, and that's her only path. She went from multiple paths to victory to one path to victory. She's got to run the tables up there. You can see this because she didn't have anything planned for Wisconsin, and she spent the last 2 days with multiple events in Wisconsin. I think if we have a mass mobilization over the weekend, it's all focused on Tuesday, I think we could win this. But I don't like people getting overconfident. Dick Morris, who I know you think highly of, and I do, came out with a big piece of Newsweek, said you win the popular vote in landslide. We just got to put that out of our mind. This is all about the working class and middle-class supporters of President Trump, the MAGA movement, if we turn out on Tuesday in the types of numbers, and I mean like 2.5 million to 3 million people in Pennsylvania, we can win this, we can hold the House, and we could pick up a couple of 3 Senate seats. And so that puts us back, Larry, as you remember, to 2016 when we came out of nowhere and did this. The difference in the 2016, Larry, because you were with us the whole time, we snuck up on them.
Mm-hmm.
They laughed at us. We were so far down. We were 3.5 points down by the polls on the night before. This is different. This is where they are plotted out our moves. They're going to have all this lawfare with Mark Elias and Jamie Raskin, but we gotta have a margin so big by Tuesday night or Wednesday morning that they can't steal it from us.
Steve Bannon, I think Mr. Trump has once again put together and strengthened the working class coalition that you talked about 8, 9, 10 years ago.
Well, Larry, I've known you forever, and you've been such a prominent member of the finance community and economic community. And, President Trump would watch you and Lou Dobbs and people like that. And I remember when you first came over, you had some hesitation too. But then as NEC, you were the tip of the spear. And you've seen with President Trump's policies, particularly on tariffs and things like that, and focus on bringing manufacturing jobs back, it's working. It's working for the country, and particularly people responding to it. That's why I think in this second term, of which we have this horrible situation with the debt ceiling, horrible situation with these massive deficits, and now the great Trump tax policy that you were one of the architects of, reversing itself in the early months of next year, we're going to be in the middle of a financial and economic crisis. And there's nobody better to have, the American people, I think, know this, than someone like President Trump, who's very sophisticated on business, very sophisticated in capital markets, and to have a team around him like folks like you and some of the other people they're talking about. So I think the American people responded. I would just like to have, if President Trump just focused on the economics and the jobs and his wheelhouse in the next 3 days, you might have a popular vote win. But I want people to focus just on, let's get into 270 or north. Let's put this thing away, and let's get this margin so big that President Trump can step up by 11 o'clock on Tuesday night before the 11 o'clock news and say, hey, I got this.
I really want him to focus. I'm going to try to get hold of him this afternoon just to put in, I love to talk to him periodically. I think he's got a really terrible jobs report yesterday, Steve Bannon. Manufacturing jobs crashing, private sector jobs crashing, native-born jobs crashing. I really want to focus on the economy, on inflation, gasoline prices, and the border. I don't care about Liz Cheney. I don't care about Mark Cuban or any of these other things. And nobody believes he's a fascist anyway. It's all out of nonsense. The threat to democracy. I want to focus, the working class themes. The working class themes, Steve.
Look, he loves watching your show. On Fox Business, he thinks very highly of you. You'll probably be one of the top guys. You'll either be Secretary of Treasury or NEC or something, or at least you'll be offered that, whether you take it or not. But this is the thing you've always told me. Look at these numbers. I think the biggest scandal is the recasting of the numbers. Biden's actually lost 1 million full-time jobs. Mm-hmm. This is why they get on CNBC and Andrew Ross Sorkin, and they're saying, hey, the economy's so great, the economy's terrific, the economy's great. Not the lived experience of the working class in this country, and it's shown in the labor statistics numbers. President Trump's administration with Steve Mnuchin and Larry Kudlow running the economic financial side would have never in a million years gun-decked the numbers on unemployment. You didn't need to. We were adding jobs all the time. These people have taken, I think, quite frankly, a number that Wall Street depends upon, that the investment community depends upon, which is really kind of a sacred number, like what jobs are produced. And they lie every month, and then they have to go back and recast. I think if you do the math, it's like 1 million jobs. That's why people in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania are saying, hey, my life sucks because I don't have a full-time job. I got 3 part-time jobs.
I think you're 100% right. I mean, the numbers are bogus. Somebody's got to go in and clean out the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Somebody's got to go in and clean it. Steve, I want to take a commercial break. I want to come back. I think the Federal Reserve has to be cleaned out. I think the Bureau of Labor Statistics has to be cleaned out. I think the FBI and the CIA has to be cleaned out. I love the Elon Musk stuff. We're going to chop off a couple $1 trillion out of the budget. Steve Bannon, stay with me, please. Let me take a quick commercial break. We will be right back. Folks, we're talking to the great Steve Bannon, the heart and soul of the MAGA movement, a good friend. We'll be right back. I'm Kudlow.
This is the Larry Kudlow Show. Now, back to the Larry Kudlow Show.
We're talking to Steve Bannon, the great Steve Bannon, the heart and soul of MAGA movement, if you ask me. CEO of 2016 Trump campaign, former White House chief strategist during the Trump administration, and host of the show War Room. Steve, just pick up where we left off. You know, Mr. Trump wins. We've got to clean up the Fed, really the Federal Reserve. We've got to clean up these economic statistical agencies. We've got to clean up the FBI. We've got to clean up the CIA. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done. My hope is, you mentioned this before, we can pick up a couple extra Senate seats, and this time the Senate will be, really big for Trump and help him along the way so we can come in and hit the ground running. The Elon Musk stuff is exactly right. You're going to, cut off a couple $1 trillion from the federal budget and start dealing with the potential financial crisis of deficit spending. This is all the stuff that has to be done, Steve Bannon.
You see, one thing I've learned from you, Larry Kudlow, is focus on growth. And
yes.
I think here's the crisis that's before us. This is the last chance for a team led by Kudlow and Scott Bessent and these other, Wall Street heavyweights and smart people to have a set of policy solutions that are based on growth. This is why if Harris wins, it's over. But if we even miss this opportunity as a team fighting on Capitol Hill for growth policies. And that's why I think you've got to focus on full spectrum energy dominance again, which is kind of the predicate of Trump's the economic miracle in the first term. But also you've got to have, Elon, and I don't know if it's efficiency, you got to restructure this to close these deficits, because it's not just the debt's exploding. What the Federal Reserve and the Treasury have done on the taking of the $36 or $37 trillion face amount of debt, Larry, is we're financing this, a third of it. We have to refinance a third of it every year, roughly. We're doing it like Argentina. They're doing it a short term. That's embedding
printing
inflation.
money. Printing money, Steve.
So with the revisions of the reversal of the tax cuts coming, the debt ceiling, we have one opportunity in the first 100 days to put in pro-growth policies, supply-side pro-growth. If we miss that opportunity, this country is going to be left hanging out to dry, because all the problems, all the issues of how we've done things over the last couple of decades is going to come back to haunt us. I actually think, and I'm deconstruct the FBI, the CIA, I say that this is the number one thing, just like Trump's tax cut was the driving force of the success of Trump's first term, that a lot of our geopolitical problems and other problems will only exacerbate if we do not get right what has to happen in the first 100 days. And if that's not a pro-growth agenda, I think this country's done.
Fantastic. Could be our last best hope. The great Steve Bannon, soul of the MAGA movement. Thank you, Steve. God bless you. Thanks for coming on.
Brother.
Folks, we're going to talk money and politics right after this with Liz Peek and Steve Forbes. I'm Kudlow. Stick around.
Eden Memorial Chapels understands Jewish funerals can take many forms. Some are Orthodox, while others are more conservative or of a Reformed nature. There's no one better. With services close to all New York and New Jersey cemeteries, Eden Memorial Chapels offer fair and balanced pricing and can provide easy transfer of you and your loved ones to Israel. While you're grieving, they're here to take care of all the details so that you deal with less bureaucracy and have more peace of mind. Go to EdenMemorial.com. That's EdenMemorial.com.